Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kylie. I am a dancer, choreographer, teacher, photographer, all the things here in Toronto, Canada. And I am here today to bring you my 5 tips to help your independent theater production run smoothly. As a choreographer, I've produced about 4 different shows, so I really haven't done it that much, but I'm here today to just share with you what I've learned so far. So let's get into it. Number 1 tip for you today is to create a schedule as far in advance as you possibly can. In the past, I've tried, assembling my team and then gathering their availabilities and building a schedule from there, and I find that just very rarely works. Create a schedule based around your availability and then hire people based on that. And then consider in your rehearsal time allotting as much time in studio to do whatever you possibly can before you get to the theater. So things like running the piece with costumes, bringing the sound and lighting technician to the studio so that you're not meeting with them for the first time at the theater. Things like that will help your tech dress rehearsal hours run that much more smoothly. My number 2 tip for you is create a budget and stick to it. So write out all of your revenue and expenses, and know that that budget can change as you go. Maybe that grant doesn't come through, maybe that fundraiser doesn't go quite as well as you thought, so be prepared to have a fallback plan. Know that, especially when you're starting out, it is 100% okay to put your own money into it. That doesn't make you a less valid creator. At the end of the day, if spending your own money to create something brings you fulfillment, who's to say that it shouldn't be your own money funding your project? A great way to save money on some of those budget lines is to form partnerships, especially when you're looking for rehearsal space. This is one way that I've been able to really save myself some money. I also am a teacher, and I've found that oftentimes when you teach for a studio, when you work for them, they are more willing to give you either a discounted rental rate or free rehearsal space if they happen to not be using the space. Cultivate those relationships, and then hopefully you can find ways to save money here and there over time. Number 3, communication. Make sure you communicate as clearly as possible, whether it's sending an email to your dancers or your actors or whoever and letting them know the rehearsal plan and schedule, whether it's sitting down in a circle at the beginning of every rehearsal and setting an intention, or opening up the space for whoever's in the room to maybe share something that they've been going through just to get it off their chest, so that we're not bringing kind of outside influences or baggage into the room. Just allowing that space for people to clear the air and communicate what they're going through as a human being, so that we can all kind of operate from a blank slate. Also keep in mind that different people like to communicate in different ways. So I've worked with lots of people who say, look, I'm not really good with text, I prefer if you would call me. Or, look, I really don't check my Facebook Messenger, so make sure you email me, otherwise I'm not gonna get that message. Keeping in mind that when you're working with things like contracts, to have them written down or typed in some way, just to keep people accountable, is something to remember. Number 4, get the word out there. So sometimes we'll create this beautiful thing, but then if nobody knows about it, the tree falls in the woods, but nobody's there to hear it. Did it really even happen? So make sure you have a plan in place in terms of how you're gonna get people there to see your thing. A lot of the times when you're first starting out, it involves a lot of just personal invitation and starting with your very own close social circle, family and friends, and sending them that text message and say, hey, I'm doing this thing, it would mean a lot to me if you came. And a lot of the times that's where you're gonna get your best responses. Don't just assume that you've rented out the theater and you've made this beautiful thing that people are automatically gonna show up. Another thing that you can do is reach out to critics and even influencers and people of social status who might share some words about your production and get their following to come and buy those tickets. And finally, tip number 5 is hire a stage manager. I know the first time I hired a stage manager, I learned very quickly that they do a lot more than just stand backstage with a headset on, calling the lighting cues to the person in the sound booth. Stage managers come with different skill sets and different personalities, so don't expect all of what I'm going to say from every single one of them, but know that they'll be there for you and do things that you didn't even think of. For example, they'll email you a schedule for your tech rehearsal the night before it happens, and they'll also ask you for the contact information of the rest of your team and take care of contacting and communicating with all of those people. Things like what the weather's going to be, what the parking situation on site is going to be. They'll also create a schedule of events for the rundown of rehearsal days in theater so that things can go more smoothly and you can focus on the creative aspect of it. So having that person managing the project and managing the people on site, keeping an eye on the time, communicating between technicians and artists. And a lot of the time, stage managers also double as creatives. It's something they do on the side because it works hand in hand with the other creative endeavors that they do. They'll know your language, they'll know what you're referring to, they'll know what you're talking about, and they'll help you just make things less of a headache when you're just trying to think of how to make your piece be amazing. All right, my friends, that is it. Those are my 5 tips for helping your independent theater production run smoothly. I hope you learned something today. Comment down below which tip was your favorite or which one you found most valuable. Definitely let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them for you. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, share this video with a friend if you found it helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.